Get started. People are still rolling in. Thank you for joining Climate Work Maine for our third session in our annual Autumn Climate Connection Business Webinar Series. My name is Jeff Marks. I'm Climate Work Maine's Director, and if this was a panel, I'd be the moderator, but we just have one person with us with a lot of information. Hopefully you have your pens ready, but we are going to send a notice after this session, probably sometime next week, that will provide you some information. Uh, just a little bit about Climate Work Maine. We are a group of businesses and organization, all sizes and types, that provide services and networking to support and promote those with products, services, programs, or projects related to climate solutions. But really, we're here to support and assist those who want to do more on climate activity. We connect businesses and others to the resources that they need to grow and succeed, and to do that in a more sustainable way. I'd like to start by thanking Drummond Woodsum for sponsoring this year's webinar series. And the last two, and this one today, really focuses on energy. We've had a session on renewable energy. We've had a session on other alternative energy sources. Today will be focused on energy efficiency. And we are aiming to have a bonus webinar probably in January, and that will focus more on grid infrastructure and resiliency. Our events are supported by our members, so I want to thank all of our members, particularly our Climate Work Maine heroes like Bangor Savings Bank, CMP, Hannaford, Maine Technology Institute, and Unum, as well as our leaders like Androscoggin Bank, Chinborough, Northern Light Health, Train, and Wells Reserve at Laughton as of today. Today's session is really focused on Maine's business owners, as well as homeowners to a certain extent, looking to lower your utility bills and improve your properties, your building's energy performance. And no one is better able to provide that message than Efficiency Maine, who has incentives and programs that can help support your energy efficiency projects. We've been getting a lot of questions lately about the effect of the one big beautiful bill in Congress and the effect on any incentives. So we really wanted to have this webinar to clear up some misunderstandings that are out there, miscommunications, and let people know about the funding and the technical assistance and the programs that are out there. Satchel Toole is our program manager for Efficiency Maine Trust, and he will be providing information on the different pilots, the discounts, rebates, and other incentives and programs to promote high efficiency equipment and operations, and any incentives and other programs that are available, and just plain information on how you can become more energy efficient in your operations. We urge you to ask questions, and if you do have a question, post it anytime on the question link on your Zoom screen. Last thing I want to do before handing it over to Satchel, thanks to Jen Brooks for producing our webinar and making sure that you all see and hear our expert. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Satchel.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. My name is Satchel Toole. I am a program manager for commercial initiatives at Efficiency Maine. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I'm excited to walk you through our programs, and thank you to Climate Work for hosting these webinars. Today, I'll be doing an introduction to the Efficiency Maine Commercial and Industrial Prescriptive Initiatives. We call it CIPI, CIPI. I'll go over the qualifying equipment for our program, the incentives and rebates, and how they work, and how customers can take advantage of these programs. I am also going to touch on the electric vehicle and financing initiatives we have at Efficiency Maine. I do have the Q&A up, so I'll try to keep an eye on that as we go through. I'll pause a few times, but Jeff and Jen certainly feel free to stop me at any point if you see something that could be addressed. I'm happy to pause and take a moment to answer those. So for those of you that are not familiar with Efficiency Maine, the purpose of our organization is to lower the cost and environmental impacts of energy in Maine by promoting energy efficiency, first and foremost, and other distributed energy resources. We are an independent quasi-state agency. We administer the statewide energy efficiency and carbon savings programs. We do this by providing rebates. I'll also use the term incentives synonymously with rebates. We like to say our programs incentivize somebody to make a choice. So incentives on the commercial side are typically how we describe these. We also have financing. We provide technical information, customer engagement like this webinar, and then a registry of vendors. And these vendors are installers, suppliers, and contractors in the energy efficiency sector. We are funded by Maine State Electric Rates, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative known as RGGI, ISO New England Grid, some federal grants, and other sources as they're available. I would say now that our programs are currently funded and running. We have a triennial plan which outlines our funding for 3-year periods of time. While we do have some federal funding and federal sources, our programs are broadly not affected by actions on the federal level. And we do try to tout some of the federal tax credits that are associated with energy efficiency measures. Many of those tax credits do end on January 1st, so there's a few more weeks to take advantage of these. But while those are sunsetting, our program is still available to customers on the residential commercial sides. And then we're operated by a board, which is approved by the governor and confirmed by the legislature. So my focus here today will be commercial and municipal buildings. Our commercial program, well, I'll go into this in a minute, but some benefits of energy efficiency. This is the business we're in, what we do and help customers achieve every day. Making buildings more energy efficient can help lower operating costs, use less energy, and then reduce system maintenance as well. Some of these older systems need a lot of upkeep and maintenance, and a new system replacing an older one or installing a new one can help you reduce that maintenance. It can increase year-round comfort. As many of you know, in Maine right now, air conditioning is becoming more and more popular and more necessary. A lot of the HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning work we do allows these spaces to be heated and cooled. Reduce carbon emissions. We do focus on carbon savings for our programs. So working on an energy efficiency project can help reduce the carbon savings and minimize the reliance on fossil fuel systems. So the commercial and industrial prescriptive program helps customers install efficient equipment that can save energy and money. So our goal is to work with businesses to offer incentives so that you can install an efficient system. You know, that's the purpose of our programs here. We do this with businesses for nonprofit, municipalities, schools and higher education facilities, manufacturing and industrial facilities, multifamily buildings with 3 or more units, and then mixed use buildings. So a commercial residential space. This could be a corner store with a few apartments above it, or something, you know, like in Portland on Commercial Street with a commercial space on the bottom floor and apartments upstairs. I would note that we describe our program sometimes as the non-residential customers. So a single family home, a duplex, a mobile home all fall under the residential program. Our commercial program offers incentives to these other groups. We have one slate of offerings for the commercial program that is available to all of these customers. So a school doesn't necessarily have different offerings than a nonprofit or a for-profit business. So if a for-profit business is installing a few heat pumps, that is also available to a nonprofit business. So we have one program that is open to all of these customers, but we do not differentiate the offerings by the business or building type. So I do see one question. Will you be discussing how nonprofits can make use of these opportunities? They can make use of them the same way that all other business customers can. So I'll go through that, but if you do have a follow-up question, please provide that in the Q&A. So our commercial program offers incentives on efficient HVAC systems. So this is heating, ventilation, air conditioning. We focus mainly on heat pumps, variable refrigerant flow systems, which are large commercial heat pumps, and ventilation equipment. We also have incentives for water heating, mainly heat pump water heaters, LED lighting, efficient compressed air equipment, efficient refrigeration equipment, and then some other specialty measures. Most of these are focused around agriculture. Oh, I apologize. I think I hit the scroll. So first I'll be speaking about the HVAC offerings. So I'll go kind of in this order here and go through each of these. Benefits of heat pumps: they save money, typically are cheaper to operate than an oil or a propane, kerosene, or electric resistance system. They can increase year-round comfort. They provide both heat and air conditioning. They also dehumidify homes and can help with air filtration. I toured a ducted heat pump system just the other day, actually yesterday. And this used, this big system used dehumidification to help cool the space. They had 2 inline air filters, and it provided heating and cooling for the whole building. I think it had between 8 and 12 indoor heads. So this is great for comfort in spaces. I know schools have been a large focus, and since COVID happened a few years ago, air filtration has been a big focus, as well as dehumidification, in terms of mold or getting other health and safety issues out of your space. No combustion fumes. These are just electric systems. You don't need a fuel tank or worry about fuel leaks, and no need to monitor your fuel level or worry about that next shipment of fuel. The next 3 slides show examples of the equipment, which all kind of fall under the heat pump umbrella. The top left is a heat pump mini split. This is what many people think of when you think of a heat pump and see one installed in a space. But there's many other variations of heat pumps. The bottom is a variable refrigerant flow system. This is one that's actually installed at Freiburg Academy. This is 2 large units that can serve a whole building. So whereas the top left might be 1 indoor unit to 1 outdoor unit, the VRF system on the bottom can have 1 or 2 outdoor units to serve anywhere from 15 to 20 interior units. It can be ducted like the example in the photo to the right, or it could have an indoor head like the top left photo. Another interesting technology we've been working with quite a bit lately are single package heat pumps. So these do not have an outdoor unit. It is 1 main unit. They do vent to the outside. So behind this unit on the top right, there would be 2 holes going out of the building, one for return air, one for supply air. But there would be no outdoor condenser. It's an all-in-one system. So we see these in the multifamily space. Package terminal heat pumps are another option. These are typically called package terminal air conditioners. They're most popular in hotels and motels. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with those. However, there's a heat pump model. So inside this casing, there's very efficient heat pump technology rather than an electric resistance or a propane system. In the middle is a heat pump rooftop unit. This is what you see on top of mainly strip malls or gas stations. However, we can now retrofit those with a heat pump version. And then vertical package terminal heat pumps, similar to the package terminal, but they're typically in a small closet space in hospitality, lodging, or multifamily. And then kind of this is some of our ventilation equipment. The dedicated outdoor air system is how you can bring warm air in to vent your space or offer ventilation to your space without bringing cold air in. Energy recovery ventilators, another great ventilation option. These use heat from exhaust air, which then gets transferred to the incoming fresh air. So again, you are not bringing very cold air into your space. And then a linear expansion valve kit. This is used to, again, um, replace an air handler in a space like a garage or a large gymnasium. And with heat pump technology, you can efficiently condition that air. So this is a lot of information, but I am here to say that we try to be a one-stop shop for all of your HVAC needs, and we can use this technology to retrofit or in new construction for many, many different types of commercial spaces in Maine. I'll pause here because I saw a few questions, which I will likely address at the end since these are not necessarily HVAC. I'll go over some more information that I think might pertain to some of these questions. So heat pump water heating. We have installed tens of thousands of heat pump water heaters in Maine. I have one in my own home. These can make lots of hot water. They can save more than $500 a year in electricity compared to a typical electric water heater, and they help dehumidify a space. It certainly helps in my basement. These are great systems, and it's one of our most successful programs, and we have one of the most successful programs in the country. We offer incentives for heat pump water heaters that are Energy Star certified. These can be unitary or split. So the example here is a unitary system. This is in a multifamily building in Portland. A split system has an outdoor unit. These can be retail or commercial units. The one here is an 80-gallon, a large 80-gallon tank. But you can also get one at Lowe's or Home Depot, get an instant discount from Efficiency Maine, and that is kind of the retail option. On to LED lighting, we have a lighting program. This is for retrofit. So this is for the replacement of existing incandescent lighting. If you would like to replace your old lighting, it can be interior or exterior. We have many options for retrofit kits, downlights, stairwell lights, floodlights, canopy fixtures, wall packs, really anything to cover most of your lighting needs. These are installed, by qualified partners with Efficiency Maine. Our lighting program was really the driver of our program for almost a decade. While we've shifted some of our focus to HVAC offerings, recently lighting is still a huge part of the program. Businesses, schools, nonprofits can save a lot of money by installing efficient LED lighting. Almost all of our programs show paybacks, in the details of our projects. And with LED lighting, a lot, maybe about half of them have a payback period between 2 and 5 years. So between 2 and 5 years, you can be making your money back, and your savings will outweigh the cost of the installation itself. We also have compressed air systems. This is where we get a little bit more into specific measures. So whereas HVAC, lighting, water heating is in almost every space, this is where our business program starts to focus on things like auto shops or automotive repair. I know there's lots of boat yards that have compressed air. So if you are in that business, if you use compressed air quite a bit, there's likely a good chance you could be saving energy and electricity. We have options for high efficiency compressor systems, dryers, air compressor receivers, low pressure drop filters, and air entraining nozzles. So if you are interested, certainly get in contact with us. These measures are some of our most cost-effective ones in terms of saving money for the customers. And we are currently focused on compressed air systems. We're doing a lot of outreach around it. So certainly let me know if you have any questions. In refrigeration, again, a little bit more specific, but we do have options for incentives on equipment that will make your existing refrigeration more efficient. We don't have incentives for buying a new refrigerator. In the market, most new appliances that are refrigerators and coolers or freezers are fairly efficient. So what we're looking at is the older ones that are not. For those, we have efficient scroll compressors, evaporator fan motors, door heater controls like you might see in a gas station or in a supermarket, floating head pressure controls, and then strip curtains. Strip curtains are those clear curtains that come down in front of the door to keep cold air in these spaces. So incentives. I've talked about all the offerings so far, but have not touched on how much money is available. I would say that the incentives vary in structure based on the type of equipment. The right-hand column you see on the screen is maximum incentive. So that's the highest you can get. For our heat pumps, we do it per unit, so per heat pump. We are mainly focused on single zone one-to-one systems. So that's one outdoor unit to one indoor unit. For the highest retrofit incentive is $1,400. A new construction heat pump incentive is $400. So you can see that's one structure of incentives we offer. If you're looking at a VRF system, it's done by square footage. So the maximum incentive we have is $12 a square foot. So you can see how these incentives vary. Certainly check out our website. If you go to our website, there's a navigation bar at top. It says at work, and there's a few columns. There's one for solutions and one for incentives. Solutions has more information on these types of equipment, whereas incentives has the dollar value. So if you'd like the dollar value of all our different offerings, please check out our website. For heat pump water heaters, for the large systems, you can get up to $3,000 per water heater. For the smaller heat pump water heaters that you might see in a home or in a small business, the 50-gallon ones, those would be closer to $1,000 as a maximum incentive. And then the middle of the line, the 80 gallons are $1,800 per water heater. So that's another structure of incentives. Our lighting program is done by calculated savings. So when a customer is looking at a project, they will have a contractor scope out the project for them. Based on that scope of work, we will calculate savings by kilowatt hours, and then we'll multiply the incentive, which is 26 cents per kilowatt hour, by the amount of kilowatt hours we are anticipating that you save in that first year, so 365 days. It's a funny incentive because it's 26 cents, but these are often thousands of kilowatt hours. So projects can range from having incentives of, $1,000, $2,000 to having incentives of tens of thousands of dollars. So it's a small, seemingly small value, but it adds up quickly. Our compressed air systems, I mentioned all those different offerings, same with the refrigeration. Those are all different based on what you're looking at, whether it's scroll compressors, strip curtains, or an air compressor. So instead of listing them all out here, I would encourage you to see efficiencymain.com. Again, if you go to our top navigation bar where it says at work, you can see this list under incentives. It'll break it out by HVAC, compressed air, lighting, and if you click there, you'll find more information. So biomass heating systems is another focus of our program. This option is kind of under its own program called the Thermal Energy Investment Program. This has dedicated funding granted to us from the legislature. So this is it's under its own title. The TEIP program provides incentives to businesses, municipalities, schools, or nonprofits for installing new thermal energy derived projects. So these are typically wood or pellet products. Conversion of fossil fuel boilers to wood-fueled boilers or boilers using biomass derived from wood. So typically you see these in pellets. Or the installation of new wood-fueled boilers or boilers using biofuels derived from wood. The incentive is 35% is the baseline. It's actually 35 to 45% of the combined cost of the equipment and labor for installation. We have seen, I think, a few projects come in this year and are excited to see more. So if you are interested in a biomass wood-fueled boiler, certainly take a look at our website. To find more information, you would look at that TEIP Thermal Energy Investment Program website. It's linked at the bottom there. And well, I think we can post to that link, but it is available on our website if you do look at the thermal energy or biomass drop-down menu option. So all of that is great information, but what we're trying to get you to do is get started with a project. Our projects are largely driven by the contractor network. On the residential side, you can install a heat pump and then fill out a form to get a rebate. However, the commercial side offers or requires pre-approval on most of these offerings. We are often giving out large incentives, and we don't want you to finish that project only to find out that, part of the installation was ineligible or some of the requirements weren't followed or understood. So that's why we like to pre-approve these projects, get an application beforehand. So before you order any materials, you will submit an application, we'll review it, pre-approve it, and then you can go ahead and order the materials and do the installation. So your first step will be to hire a commercial qualified partner. You can use our website under, again, the At Work menu. You can look at the option. It says find a qualified partner. I have a few slides on that I'll touch on next. The qualified partner will either talk to you about what you're interested in, or they'll conduct an assessment of your property. For something like lighting, they will go through and audit your lighting or existing lighting and see what you can replace. They have a form, a tool that they use to kind of conduct this audit, and then they submit that to us for project approval. If it's heat pumps, you're often, having them come out and quote a project. If it's insulation, sometimes you just give them measurements of your space. So it can be, different what this second step is, but always just get in touch with a qualified partner. Step 3 will be to reserve your incentive. This is the application. The application process is largely driven by qualified partners. So they have login credentials to a website that we use where they can submit the application. They do need customer information, but it's largely, again, driven by the qualified partner to submit that application. Step 4 is to complete your upgrade. Once you've received a pre-approval, you can order equipment, complete the upgrade. And then once it's done, we're typically notified by the qualified partner, and then you'll receive a check in the mail. It can either go to the building owner or the installer. The default is to go to the building owner or customer. However, an installer, if they are willing, can receive that directly, which would in turn cut down on the upfront costs of the project for you, the customer. This is what our finding a qualified partner tool looks like. You will put in what service you're looking for. So it could be lighting, heat pumps, refrigeration, your zip code, the radius you want to search by. So if you're in a more rural area, you might select a larger radius. If you want to cut down on those options, you might select 25 miles if you're in a more densely populated area. This is just for our office in Augusta. I cut it off after 3, but there are many, many options here. This will give you, it searches by radius, so the closest ones will pop up first. It'll offer the contractor name, their location, phone number, website. If you click this down arrow, this more option here though, it will show you a little bio and then some additional contact information. Sometimes they have their email listed there as well, so certainly click the more option. And we always suggest you get a few different quotes. I think that's best practice in most of these, building projects or installation projects. So this is how you'd find a qualified partner. And then I'll pause there and look at the Q&A. The next few things I'll talk about are a custom program and electric vehicle program. So one question asked how Efficiency Maine uses the carbon savings as a project qualifier. This is built into our savings assumptions and algorithms. It's mostly as an avoided cost. I don't do so much of that work. I mainly just work on the project management and project development. But I will, it can certainly put you all in contact with some more information on that if you are interested. Another question says Maine has many old historic brick buildings, and architects are typically cautious about insulating them without expensive moisture analysis. Can historic masonry analysis be incentivized? Our programs, or the way our statute works, is that the funds we invest have to create carbon savings, and this can be, defined in a few different ways, but typically our programs do not offer funding for analysis or things like energy audits. I would say that there could be other state programs which offer funding for this, or other programs in general, not necessarily state programs. We do work in a lot of buildings that are old brick buildings. I'm thinking of a few in, Bath and Belfast recently. I'm not as familiar with moisture analysis, though. We don't do so much with the, mold or moisture. Most of our programs are focused on energy efficiency. This says, can a mini split as well as a ducted heat pump system have an unobtrusive vent rather than a more obtrusive indoor unit? Yes, they can. In fact, the house I was looking at yesterday with a ducted heat pump system, they actually removed the large indoor units and replaced them with ducting. They had very typical framing in their home, and the contractor was able to put ducting into that space and just had really, really small, slim receivers where they were able to install those. So yes, ducting is an option for a lot of these systems. I think most contractors are focused on the mini split aspect, those, what you might call more obtrusive systems. But there is a lot of ducting and ductwork, especially in commercial spaces. One says, is Efficiency Maine giving ERV rebates now? Yes, Efficiency Maine does have rebates for ERV, energy recovery ventilators. However, they have to be listed. They have a specific efficiency criteria, which lends itself for mostly larger ERVs. We've seen examples in multifamily buildings and large commercial spaces, but for some reason, the AHRI, which is an efficiency rating organization, they don't always qualify small units that you might see in a small home. So yes, we do have ERV rebates. We typically see larger ERVs come into the program, though. Another question is, does lighting also apply to T8, T5, fluorescent, metal halide, etc., only incandescent? I apologize. I think I kind of said something misleading. We do focus on incandescent fixtures and bulbs, but yes, there are options for T8, T5 fluorescent replacements. We have a distributor program, so lighting distributors can actually give you a point of purchase rebate on that lighting at a lighting distributor, which is usually where installers will get their lighting. But yes, these types of lights are incentivized through our program currently. You can find more information on that on our lighting website, or there should be an option there for distributor lighting as well. Another one says, are heat pump incentives handled via the contractor? Are these tied up in federal funding, or will heat pumps incentive be around after the first? Yes, we don't anticipate any major changes in funding after the first. So it is not tied to federal funding. We are offering our programs, we like to say, throughout the year. On our commercial side, we certainly don't anticipate making any changes on January 1st. It'll be business as usual. And yes, the heat pump incentives are typically handled by the contractor, but customers can be engaged in that process if they would like to. And the incentive is always given to the customer unless they authorize us to give it to the contractor. Is there a cost for getting an assessment from a qualified partner? This is a little bit dependent on what you're looking at. Typically, to get a heat pump quote or a lighting quote, what might be called an assessment, does not cost money, but there's certainly projects where getting design work does cost money, but typically if you're trying to get a quote, it does not cost money. We have another question. It says, we do commercial MEP and BE audits, but do not install any equipment. Do we need to be a qualified partner? To do that work, you do not need to be a qualified partner. We need qualified partners as part of the installation process. However, if you would like to be a qualified partner, you can be, and you will show up on our qualified partner locator, just not involved in projects that are offered incentives. And then one says, the last one here, can you add a heat pump to a system that is already a forced hot air system? I believe you can. So we see projects that already have ductwork, for example, installing a heat pump and connecting it to that ductwork. The one thing here is sizing. And, I personally have a huge furnace in my basement, and it's a big, massive system. And I could replace that with a ducted heat pump. However, sometimes the heat pumps don't have the same fan force. So we have seen examples where people need to get smaller ductwork. And that is just, two systems designed differently. But for the most part, yes, you can. We have certainly seen, these heat pumps replacing central air systems and using the same ductwork. But if you have ductwork from, the 60s like me, it might be oversized for that heat pump. So yes, it's very possible. We do see that. It's fairly common, but just wanted to give that one caveat. All right, I've been talking for a little while now, so I apologize, but I'll touch on a few extra things here. We do have a custom program. A custom program is essentially for non-prescriptive offerings. So if you're looking at a technology that I did not just talk about, you can look into our custom program. It requires pre-approval, but it specifically reviews the project for cost effectiveness. It can be heat recovery program or heat recovery systems, large compressed air systems, high efficiency HVAC and controls. Projects we typically see come in are, compressed air or heat recovery in large manufacturing facilities or in timber mills or with something like a geothermal system. Certainly get in contact with our custom program if you do have any ideas. They do other things like combined heat and power systems, and then the summer peak load reduction program as well. So this is an energy storage program. So these are not as prescriptive of offerings, but this program is there to help other customers with, very specific technology. Electric vehicles. We do have an electric vehicle program. These vehicles cost less to drive, are easier to maintain with fewer moving parts, and are cleaner for the air without those fossil fuels. We have rebates for low and moderate income customers for both used and new electric vehicles. And then right now, for a limited time for commercial customers, we're offering rebates up to $14,000 for the purchase of a new electric van. Participants that are eligible are businesses, nonprofit organizations, or government entities in Maine. Please see our website for more information on the incentive or the rebates, the amount of rebate for a new vehicle versus a used vehicle, and then how we qualify low and moderate income customers. And then I'll touch on financing. We have something called the Efficiency Maine Green Bank. This is our financing initiative. The Green Bank is designed to drive private capital into market gaps for energy efficiency projects and clean energy equipment and services. We have a few different options here. One is a municipal lease. This is essentially a program where we have worked with local banks to understand energy projects and understand what a large heat pump investment looks like, what a payback is, and how the process works with our program. We then can partner municipal customers with one of those lending institutions. So we'll make that connection and help that municipality get a lease on, it's similar to a loan. And I'm not as familiar with the financing aspect of this, but they do call it a lease. And we've seen these for, large municipal projects. I would note too that the bank likes to point out they'll do this for other things like a school bus, but Efficiency Maine is involved for these energy efficiency projects. We also have CPACE. This is a program that allows municipalities to engage in CPACE, and essentially you are getting a loan for a project, but it is tied to the building, not to the business owner. So that's why the municipality has to be involved. It's about the tax assessed value of the property. There are over 20 municipalities in Maine that have a CPACE program initiated. I think South Portland and Portland are both ones. We have a list on our website, but if you are interested in CPACE, we have seen more and more businesses and municipalities getting involved. And then the small business energy loan. I'll just see. Yeah, this next slide is for that. We do have financing available to small business owners who are installing high performance heat pumps, VRF systems, or one of those with a lighting project. Our small business eligibility is a little specific. It is for businesses with an average electrical demand of 100 kilowatts or less. These are labeled as small general service, small service, or medium general service. And then there's some more information here. These are for 12, 14, 36 month terms at 4.99%. If you would like to check if you are a qualified small business, you can submit a confidential copy of your energy bill or electric bill through our website, and we can let you know if you qualify for these small business incentives and small business loans. That is right at efficiencymaine.com/small-business-energy-loans. So this has its own website. You can check if you're a small business, check if you would qualify for a loan, and see the steps to get involved with that process. That's all of the information I have for you today. I see one more question. For multi-residential units, do window heat pump units qualify? So they do not qualify yet. We are continuing to look at them and work with other states to assess these units. With that said, they are very interesting units. It's, for those of you that aren't familiar, it's like a saddle. So you put it kind of over a windowsill. The outdoor unit hangs outside, the indoor unit hangs inside, kind of below the window. And they allow essentially for you to have a window unit that's an air conditioner and a heater. They're very interesting. They're still going through some pilot projects through NYSERDA in New York, and I believe in Boston as well. We're excited to see what the results are, but they are not eligible in our program right now until we just get some more information. But that's something we continue to look into. And those are all the questions right now. I'm happy to stay on and answer more questions. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Again, if you're looking for more information, you can find it at efficiencymaine.com, or you can call us at the number on the screen at 866-376-2463. But otherwise, I would pass it back to you, Jeff.
Satchel, that was fantastic. It's a lot of information in a short period of time, but as I
Yes, it
mentioned,
is.
this session is being recorded. We will send out next week a link to the recording so that you can go back and catch any of the information that you may have missed. I also want to point out, we hold webinars quite a bit, and you'll get a lot of people registered, and about half of the people will show up and attend the webinar. This had a very high percentage of attendees to registration, and that tells me all of you who have come on to this call, you really need this information, you want this information, and you'll probably use the information. So that's what we want to see in these events. When people register, it's really because they want to get the information and use it in their businesses. So, in addition to the thanks to Satchel, thanks for all of you attending, because I know this is important to you and the work that you're doing. I don't really have any additional questions, although it did come up. Are there opportunities, Satchel, to bundle multiple incentives? I know sometimes people do that with tax credits and rebates, but as far as the incentives offered by Efficiency Maine, are there opportunities to bundle incentives?
So you We don't have any, like bonus incentives if you do multiple things at one time. We do see a lot of folks doing multiple projects at once, and we can kind of bundle that incentive into the same project and they get likely paid out at the same time. But on our end, we don't limit incentives based on what other people might be getting from other organizations. I know with some federal funding, you can't stack or braid funds, but right now we are, blind to whatever else you're doing. There is a climate resilient grant program, for example, and they often get a grant from the state and also get incentives from us. So you can certainly get multiple incentives at once. We don't have any bonus incentives for doing, extra things at the same time, though.
You appreciate that. I just want to wrap up here. If all of you listening, if you're not a Climate Work Maine member at this point, I'd love to have a conversation with you, learn what your priorities are, what activities you're involved in, and see if there's anything that we can do to help. My email address is jeff@climateworkmaine.org, and you can find that on our website as well. The only other thing I wanted to point out is we do an annual summit. We've had three so far. We have our fourth one coming up on March 19th of next year. And just wanted to alert all of you that the early bird special is only available until New Year's Eve at midnight, and that's $20 off the registration. So, much like our energy bills next year, the prices will go up next year. So, take a look at that if you want to attend. It's a good opportunity for kind of one-stop shop. Come in, meet with 500 of your colleagues and others, both in the private sector as well as nonprofits and government leaders in the state. And we talk about some big climate sustainability and energy issues. And with that, just want to thank you again, Satchel. Thanks to Efficiency Maine. I moved back to my home state of Maine at around the time that Efficiency Maine was forming. What you have done over that period of time is pretty amazing, and it's made this state a leader on energy uh, incentives and rebates and programs, especially in the heat pump and electrification areas. So thanks for all you do, Satchel, and for the rest of you, happy holidays and an early happy new year.
Thanks so much, Jeff, and thanks everybody for joining today.
Bye now.